Welcome to This Explainer. Picture this for a second. It's 1985, you're a recent college grad, you're sharp, you're super ambitious, and you've got a fantastic work ethic. But instead of, steadily climbing up that corporate ladder, you are entirely homeless. Your savings are totally wiped out, credit cards are completely maxed out, and you're actually living out of a beat-up brown Toyota, reclining the seats back at night just to have a place to sleep. Well, this wasn't just a hypothetical nightmare. This was the harsh reality for the author of our source material today, Robert, and his wife, Kim. They literally spent 3 weeks living in that car before finally crashing in a friend's basement for 9 straight months. It's kind of crazy, right? To have a solid college education, yet find yourself teetering right on the edge of the financial abyss? So naturally, when their friends and family found out about this pretty desperate situation, they all asked the exact same completely predictable question. Why don't you just get a job? I mean, it makes sense, right? It's the logical thing to ask. But for the author, hearing that caused a massive amount of tension. See, he and his wife knew for a fact they could easily go out and land safe, high-paying jobs. But they absolutely refused to settle for the illusion of job security. They were on a mission. They were choosing to endure all that fear, the uncertainty, even the hunger, because they weren't chasing a paycheck. They were chasing total, absolute financial freedom. And honestly, what happens next is just a brilliant testament to the power of laser focus. Fast forward to 1989. That's just 4 years after sleeping in that freezing brown Toyota. Without relying on any massive starting capital, and without even using the specific subjects they studied in college, they became millionaires. By 1994, they were completely financially free, meaning they literally never had to work another day in their lives if they didn't want to. So how in the world did they pull that off? How do you go from a Toyota to a millionaire in 4 years with zero steady paycheck? Well, it all boils down to one fundamental shift in how you view money.
Section 1. The Cashflow Quadrant Explained.
Okay, so let's look at the actual framework that made this wild transformation possible, the Cashflow Quadrant. Basically, this represents the 4 completely different ways people generate income in the business world. Look, a dollar is a dollar, right? But the way that dollar is earned can be completely different depending on where you stand. It's actually not about your specific profession. It's much deeper than that. It's about our core internal values, our strengths, and our weaknesses. Now, technically, we can earn income in all 4 of these quadrants, but almost all of us naturally gravitate toward just one.
Let's break these 4 letters down real quick. Up on the top left, you've got E for employee. Employees earn their money by holding a job. They work for someone else. Down on the bottom left is S for self-employed. These are the folks who earn money by working for themselves. Essentially, they own their jobs. Now swing over to the top right, and you've got B for business owner. These people own a business system that actively generates money for them. And finally, bottom right, I stands for investor. Investors earn money from their investments. Basically, they have their money out there working 24/7 to generate even more money.
Section 2. Buckets versus pipelines. To really wrap our heads around this big divide between the left side, the E's and S's, and the right side, the B's and I's, we've got to look at an allegory the author learned when he was just 12 years old. Imagine 2 guys, Ed and Bill, and they both get a contract to supply water to a local village. Ed, who represents the left side of our quadrant, went right out, bought 2 heavy steel buckets, and immediately started running back and forth to the lake. He worked his tail off, dawn to dusk, physically hauling that water. And hey, he made immediate cash, but he was totally trapped by his own physical labor. Bill, on the other hand, representing the right side, completely vanished for months. He didn't buy a single bucket. Instead, he wrote up a business plan, started a corporation, got investors on board, and hired a crew to build this massive stainless steel pipeline. A year later, Bill turns on the tap. His pipeline delivers cleaner water 24/7 and for a fraction of the cost. Poor Ed had to start hauling 4 buckets at a time just to keep up, while Bill had built a system that just pumped money into his bank account whether he was out working or sitting on a beach. So, the single most crucial question you have to ask yourself right now is this. Am I building a pipeline or am I just hauling buckets? Are you working incredibly hard for your money, physically carrying those buckets every single day? Or are you working smart by taking the time up front to build systems and pipelines that will eventually just do the heavy lifting for you? Remember, the left side hauls buckets, the right side builds pipelines. Section 3. The core mindset differences. Changing quadrants isn't just about handing in your 2 weeks' notice and changing jobs. It requires a profound shift in your core values. And actually, it's pretty wild, but you can figure out exactly which quadrant someone is operating in just by listening to the words they use. For example, when someone says, "I'm looking for a safe, secure job with excellent benefits," they're planted firmly in the E or employee quadrant. At their core, when they feel the fear of economic uncertainty, their gut instinct is to seek security. They want that rock-solid written agreement. They crave certainty above all else. For the employee mindset, the feeling of security is usually way more important than the actual wealth they could be building. Now, let's contrast that with the S, or self-employed quadrant. Here, you're going to hear phrases like, "My rate is $35 per hour," or "Nobody does it better." This group is full of fiercely independent do-it-yourselfers. When they get hit with financial fear, they don't go looking for a boss to protect them. They take total control and do it themselves. These are your perfectionists, the doctors, lawyers, consultants, independent plumbers. They want things done their way. But here is the massive trap. Their income is 100% tied to their own two hands. Let's cross over to the right side of the quadrant. The B, or business owner, uses a totally different vocabulary. They'll say something like, "I'm looking for a new president to run my company." See, while the S quadrant hates delegating because they truly believe nobody can do it better than them, the true B quadrant business owner absolutely loves to delegate. Their whole motto is, why do it yourself when you can hire someone way smarter to do it for you? They actively surround themselves with top talent from all four quadrants to run their systems. And finally, we have the I, the investor quadrant. Their vocabulary sounds a bit more like this. Is my cash flow based on an internal rate of return? This right here is the ultimate playground of the rich. Investors do not physically work for money. Their money works for them. They rely heavily on OPT, other people's time, and OPM, other people's money, to make their wealth compound automatically. The bottom line is, no matter which of the other three quadrants you start your journey in, you have to eventually arrive in the I quadrant if you ever want to convert your hard-earned income into lasting multi-generational wealth.
Section 4, owning systems versus owning jobs.
There is a massive, and I mean massive, trap that so many highly ambitious people fall into. They decide they're going to strike out on their own, but instead of building a true business, they accidentally just create a brand new, highly stressful job for themselves. The author has this great way of illustrating this. When someone pitches him a new business idea, they're usually obsessing over how amazing their product is. So he always asks them one very simple question. Can you personally make a better hamburger than McDonald's? Almost 100% of the time people say yes. Of course they can cook a better burger. But then he hits them with a follow-up. Okay, but can you personally build a better business system than McDonald's? And that is exactly where they freeze. See, the left side of the quadrant obsesses over the idea of the better burger. The right side obsesses over the business system. Literally, billions of people can grill a fantastic burger, but there are very, very few who can build a global system that perfectly delivers billions of them every single year. So the absolute key here is understanding what a system actually is. A true business owner owns a system, not a job. Think about it. If a self-employed dentist takes a month-long vacation, his income grinds to a complete halt because he literally is the system. But a true B quadrant owner, they can leave their business for an entire year. Seriously, a full year. And when they come back, they'll find it running smoother and more profitably than when they left. All because they have competent people managing a completely independent process.
Section 5, the true definition of wealth. We've talked a lot about income so far, but what about actual wealth? Because the truth is, you can be rich or you can be poor in absolutely any of the four quadrants. Bringing in a massive six-figure salary doesn't mean a thing if every single dime immediately flushes right out your expense column to pay for a giant mortgage and fancy sports cars. Here is the ultimate takeaway, and this completely blew my mind the first time I heard it. Wealth is measured in time, not dollars. True wealth is not some giant number sitting in a bank account. It is strictly defined as the number of days you can survive without physically working while maintaining your exact current standard of living. Let's do some quick math. It's wonderfully simple. If your monthly expenses are $1,000 a month and you happen to have $3,000 sitting in your savings account, your wealth is exactly 90 days. That's it. You are 3 months wealthy. You only achieve true, infinite wealth when the passive income flowing in from your asset column, meaning your investments and your business systems, outpaces your monthly living expenses indefinitely. Once you hit that tipping point, that is the exact moment you become truly financially free. So what's the game plan here? What's the ultimate roadmap we should be following? The goal is a deliberate, focused journey toward the right side of the quadrant, the B and I sectors. Because this is where the magic happens. This is where you unlock profound legal tax advantages. This is where you leverage other people's time and money. And this is where you actually build those pipelines that deliver genuine financial freedom. Now, doing this requires a completely different mindset. It requires a willingness to face down the fear of uncertainty. But the prize at the end of that journey, it's absolute total control over your own life. So, I'm going to leave you with this somewhat provocative final thought. Which quadrant are you in right now? And more importantly, as you look ahead at your own future, is it the right one for you? Are you spending your life hauling heavy buckets, or are you finally ready to start building your pipeline? Take a moment to really chew on that. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.